Hello there and welcome to this workshop or course on data visualization with R or R for data visualization course. My name is Valentine and I'll be your instructor. In this course, we're going to start by learning about the learning outcomes. After that, we'll get to talk about important concepts in relation to data visualization with R, why we would want to learn about them. After that, we'll go through a practice session where we'll get to practice those concepts using the R programming language. We'll also provide you with challenges that will allow you to put into practice what you will have learned practically. Then towards the very end, we'll talk about the next steps. So what should you learn after you've gone through learning the concepts in relation to data visualization with R. So let's get started. By the end of today, we expected to have achieved these learning outcomes. You should be able to, or we should be able to understand the importance of data visualization in analysis. We should be able to use R, the R programming language, to create various types of plots. We should be able to customize plots for effective data communication. We should also be able to evaluate the effectiveness of different visualizations for specific scenarios. Getting started, what is data visualization with R? So this is a process that involves using the R programming language as well as its other libraries or its libraries, which we would normally term as packages, to create representations of data. So you could use R to not only do data analysis work or statistical analysis work, but you can also use R for data visualization. So, and just to recap a bit, R is a programming language for statistical computing and graphics. We can use R even for just generally any sort of data science project. And this language provides us with just powerful tools that allow us to even create publication ready as well as interactive visualizations. In terms of the process that we would undertake when creating visualizations, we would import the data that we have. That's only after we have determined that we've already understood the business question. We would import the data that would help us to answer that business question. Then after that, we would prepare the data, then choose a visualization package from R. R provides many visualization packages. There are quite a number of them, and some of those packages are, there's ggplot2, there's ggplotly, there's shiny, there's leaflet, there's ggAnimate. There are quite a large number of them, but we would choose just one that is specifically geared towards creating the visualizations that we would want to create. Let's say, for example, if we wanted to create something like static visualizations, then ggplot2 would be the best package to consider during that particular step. So once we've created a visualization package, we would then create once we've chosen a visualization package, we would then choose to create the basic plot that we would want that helps us answer the research question or business question, customize the visualization for clarity as well as for appeal to the audience at hand. Then later export that visualization as maybe as a PNG file, JPEG file, or in other formats. Maybe if it's a dashboard, you could export it in HTML form and upload it elsewhere that our users might be able to interact with the visualization. And in many cases, we would just create a visualization, export it, and import it maybe to some presentation software, or have it in a blog together with some other content, maybe some article, etc. So generally, that's the process that we would undertake, and that's what we are going to be able to see during the practice work, where we get to interact with the R programming language. Why would we perform data visualization with R? There are many reasons. A few of them include being able to explore data. So sometimes you might have some research question that requires us to, first of all, understand the data that we're going to use to answer the research question. So In some situations, we might want to create charts such as histograms to understand the distribution of variables within our data. We might want to create box plots to understand whether there are outliers within the variables within with the data, the variables in the data that we are working with, etc. So exploratory data analysis work would be one of those reasons why we would want to use R for data visualization. And R makes it easy. The packages that we're going to use make it easy for us to do that work, explore the data at hand. Communicate insights. Sometimes we might want to do data analysis work, and we would need to have visualizations, because we would understand that visualizations would help provide some basis from which for the insights or for the conclusions that we make in a data analysis report. So communication of just insights would be one of those reasons. Decision making. Stakeholders might want to make some decisions, but those decisions have to be backed by data. Or alternatively, not really from that end. It could be from the end that you first of all uncover findings, and then you provide recommendations upon which stakeholders, business stakeholders, or organization stakeholders would make the decisions based on those particular recommendations that you make. Identifying patterns and anomalies still connected to exploratory data analysis. Another reason would be even creating dashboards that would help stakeholders in an organization understand how performance overall is within maybe a team, or with regards to a team, or with regards to an organization. So those are just a few reasons. There are many reasons, but those are just a few reasons that you would want to learn data visualization with R. And also something else is that when you're working with R, especially for data analysis projects or research or statistical research projects, it's highly likely that you're going to at some point create visualizations. Hence, this is a core skill that you need to learn when it comes to working with R. In terms of packages, I've talked about a few. There's ggplot2, which is usually a standard when it comes to working with libraries or to working with visualizations. When it comes to R, it helps you to create static visualizations as well as a few interactive types of visualizations. So if you're thinking of maybe creating a bar chart, pie chart, histogram, scatter plot, bubble chart, which we are actually going to cover some of those, then ggplot would be a standard that you would end up using. There's ggplotly, which allows you to create interactive visualizations. So if maybe you'd want users to dive into maybe explore a bit further the data that you've presented within a chart, then you can use this package for that. Shiny generally allows us to create dashboards. There's also Leaflet and ggAnimate, which are the packages that allow us to create further advanced visualization. Like ggAnimate would allow you to animate your visualizations, to create some animations within your visualization. So yeah, so these are just packages which you could end up using, but the most common one is ggplot2. It's usually the most basic, not really the most basic, but a standard or the de facto for just creating visualizations when it comes to R. And we are going to be using ggplot2, which comes as part of another collection of R packages that work together called tidyverse packages. All right, just going a bit more deeper into now ggplot2. When we're working with ggplot2, we tend to work with what are called functions and also layers. So ggplot2 allows you to create visualizations using some sort of layer approach, where you have a data, then you add another layer in reference to the type of plot that you want to create. For each layer, you would work with, say, functions. So there's a function that allows you to work with data, another one that allows you to work with a type of function or a type of chart. There's also another function that allows you to customize your visualization. So When it comes to ggplot2, these are just a few functions that you can get to work with. So there's ggplot that allows you to create what is called a ggplot object, which would set the data that you would want to work with when it comes to your visualization work. There's est, which is a function that allows you to set a few other attributes such as color and the size of the elements that you have within your visualization. There's geomPoint for creating scatter plots. There's geomLine, geomBar, geomHistogram. So these are just different functions for creating different types of plots. And then there's also another function that will come in handy and we'll get to interact with, which is usually the theme function. And it provides us with some predefined theme, which is just a collection of styles that allow us to have a plot appear in a certain way. So we'll get to work with theme minimal, we'll get to work with theme BW, black and white. So there are quite a number of them. So when you get to see the work that we are going to be doing, generally we will be, first of all, importing or preparing the data. Okay, importing the data, preparing it. Then after that, now using these functions for plotting. So yeah, so that's what we're going to be seeing in, this workshop. So in terms of practice work, now we're now going to move on into a practice work. When it comes to working with R, we can work with R locally or in the cloud. The common approach is usually to download a software. It's usually called an integrated development environment called RStudio. RStudio is a software that allows you to organize R projects, and you can write R code within RStudio, and you can save in form of projects and export those projects and do a whole lot of other things in relation to R. So we can use RStudio locally, but we can also use RStudio in the cloud, which is what we are going to be using. It's the same software, but now on the web, and this is just for learning purposes, so that we are able to not really come across maybe issues when it comes to installations, and you're able to get RStudio quick and up and running, and be able to also follow through this workshop without a lot of delay. So I'm going to ask you to go on your browser and type in posit.cloud, or you can just Google it, posit.cloud, and you should get to a website that allows you to generally sign up for an account and a posit.cloud account. And once you have done that, you'll be able to get to a page that looks like this. So you need to go to posit.cloud, and I won't go to the homepage itself. I've already signed up for an account, but once I have signed up, it's a free account initially, but it has limitations. So you can use it only for learning, but if you want for projects, to use it on your own projects, you can always think about the local alternative. Or if you feel like a cloud is where you belong, so you could always just opt in for membership and upgrade your account. But for me, I just chose the basic free account, which after signing up, I was able to get to this page. So this is a dashboard. So I'm going to ask you to do that, pause the video, sign up, and then get to this dashboard, and then we can continue. I'll just continue after this, after a few seconds. But you can pause the video, you can pause the stream, and you can unpause it after. All right, so once you have gotten to have signed up, the next thing that you need to do is to go to new project. So top right, you can see new project. Then you click on new RStudio project, and it should open a new project. And it will deploy just a project, an RStudio project. At the very top, you can update the name of the project. You can say it's R, data visualization with R, and press enter. And as you still are waiting, you'll get to see RStudio being loaded, and it will just give us just now the interface that we're going to be working with. This can take like 20 seconds or so. And on the left hand side, you can always minimize. If you have this open, you can always just close it by clicking on this icon twice, or just this hamburger icon. It's usually called the hamburger icon. So that's just about it. Now this is RStudio. Once you've gotten here, again, remember, if I'm too fast, you could always pause the video, and you could also rewind the stream or the video, and you can always be able to go back to where you might have been left, or where you missed something. So so once you get here, the next thing that we need to do, I won't, by the way, talk so much about the interface. I'm assuming that you've already worked on other RStudio, gone through other RStudio projects or experiences. So the idea, this is not a basic workshop or course on RStudio, but so just follow through. If you're new, or you just want to just get a quick refresher, just know that we have a console section, terminal, background. So if we install something, we'll see it install here. Environments, we should be able to see in this tab the variables that we create or declare. At the very bottom, this is where we're going to be uploading files that we have curated for this workshop, and this is where you can export your files to your local machine. So the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to visit the link in the description of this YouTube video. So click on that link and it should take you to this page. The link is on the description of this YouTube video. So click on that link, you can pause the video, and it should take you to this page, and then click on the sample practice resource link. And that should take you to a page that looks like this, and download the file itself. If you're an Afterwork member, you can be able to have access to a practice resource link. So you can use just the practice resource link, and you also have the option of you also have a solution to the practice resource. This is just for the sample workbook. It's just for persons who just want to learn. There are a few challenges, but for the sample workbook, we don't cover all challenges. We only cover a few challenges. But for the practice, you'll get extensive resources, extensive challenges that you can also verify with the solution workbook. So I'll be using, by the way, the practice. I'll be using the sample. But again, feel free to explore the practice work of becoming an Afterwork member, and you'll get resources, all the resources that we have ever created. It helps us also just keep on going. So once you have done that, once you've downloaded it, so the next thing that we need to do is to upload. So close this one. So we need to upload the document that we have uploaded. I'm going to upload by clicking here. So you can see at the very on your screen, there's an upload. On the files tab, there's an upload button. So click on files. The upload button should give you this. Then you click on choose file, and then you choose the file that you have just downloaded, sample. So you can choose it. You won't be able to see on my screen because I haven't shared my native browser, my native window. I've only shared the browser. So this is a sample workbook. Then I say okay, and it should upload here. That's what you need to do. I personally, I'm going to upload some other two files that if I am an Afterwork member, I will upload the practice workbook. I'll also upload the solution workbook. So that's a practice, the solution workbook. But if you're not an Afterwork member, don't worry about these ones. Awesome. So once you have uploaded them, the next thing that you need to do is to click on the sample. So click on the sample. If you're an Afterwork member, click on practice. So once you've clicked on it, you'll get an editor that pops up here. You can minimize the console window or the background jobs window, and just click on install. It tells us packages are markdown and tidyverse are required but not installed. So click on install. And under background jobs, you'll see the packages being installed. While that is happening, we can move on to just a quick explanation of what this document. So we've selected the sample workbook, which appears in the editor. If we select practice workbook, it will also appear here. The same case with solution. I'll just click on solution because I would want to just do a few things. But now it's installing, so I won't click on this again. So it's also installing tidyverse. It's prompted us to do that. So what we are seeing here is just content for the notebook or for the workbook that we have, the R Markdown workbook. It's a document that we can use to have to contain our content in relation to R. The content it's usually written in R Markdown, the language itself, or Markdown language. So you'll see, like, as just H1 heading, there's one hash, H2 heading, there's 2 hashes, H3 heading, there's 3 hashes. But to just see this in an appealing way, so you can click on visual. So click on visual at the very top, and then it should prompt you just to give you a pop-up about just some conversion, but you can just say, okay, use visual mode. Just say you use visual mode, and now we have a better outlook of this. So we can minimize this console window and resize. So you can bring your mouse in between here and resize this window so that we're able to see clearly. So I just have to push this one up there. So all right, so now we're going to work on this sample workbook, which will allow us to just go through concepts in relation to data visualization with R. So starting off, if you're uploading this workbook in an environment where tidyverse is not installed, then you can run the first cell. We've already installed tidyverse when we were prompted, so we will just leave that alone. So the next thing that we're going to do is just import tidyverse. We've installed it but not imported it, so click on import. That should import it. You should get an output that looks like this. All right, starting off, we're going to start learning about bar charts. Bar charts are those visualizations that allow us to represent data and that, in a format that compares different categories. So if we want maybe to compare product category and total sales for each product category, we can use a bar chart for that. So let's first of all, in this chunk, so this is a chunk, we are going to run the code that's in here. So what I've highlighted is the code. This is a comment. So let's run this code chunk by clicking on this icon, run current chunk, and it should preview. So we are importing our data and storing it in sales data using this left assignment operator, and we are using read CSV function from tidyverse. If it's read.csv, it's not the function that we want. We want to work with function from tidyverse. So when we preview the first few records, in R, we usually preview the first 6 records. In Python head just gives us the first 5. So this is how our data set looks. So what we want to do is to have product category and sales amount, but we are not sure. Maybe there are repeated, like, you can see electronics and also electronics, because these are just records for customers' purchases. So Jane, spent this much amount on electronics, on 5 different electronics, as well as Mark spent 900 on 4 different electronics products. So once we have loaded our data set, we can preview it, understand it a bit more. So then we prepare the data set. I mentioned we prepare the data set, data preparation, and then we create the plot and preview it. So preparing our data set, so we can, in this case over here, what we're doing, which these are concepts that we cover in another workshop called data analysis with R. So what we are doing here is we are creating this variable called sales data, and we are assigning it this particular operation, the outcome of this operation. So in sales data, we want to apply the group by function to create a summary table. So we want this summary table to have product category on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we want total sales, but now which would be the sum of all the total sales amounts for the category. So for product category, we want product category on that summary table, but on the right hand side we want to have total sales. And then this will actually store our, will give us the table. We store it in sales data and then we preview it, which is what we have, product category, total sales. So this is our outcome. And then we can decide to now create our plot. So our plot is a bar chart. So we mentioned we use ggplot. Remember in the slides, we mentioned there are various functions that we use. So we use ggplot to work, first of all, set the data that we want to work with. So we want to work with the sales data, which we have here. And then we use the est function to be able to define the x and y axis and the data that needs to go towards those visual elements within our visualization, within our plot. So on the x-axis, we want product category. On the y-axis, we want to have total sales. And you can note the delimiter characters that you see here. These, we normally use these when we have a word, a column that has more than one word. So if you use it just as it is without those delimiters, the columns as they are without the delimiters, you'll get problems. Then after that, we would then apply another layer of using the geom bar. So geom bar function would specify the type of visualization that we want to create. So we want to create a bar chart. So we use a geom bar and we set it to start identity. And we also set to, when we set it to start identity, we would end up creating a bar chart. And then when we set fill is another parameter for this function that allows us to set the color of the bar chart. We just want it to be sky blue, but you can also put in hex code colors here, not just colors that have been defined already. Then we add another layer. So this will define now the title. It will also define the text for the x-axis, this is the text for the y-axis, and then we apply now just the theme, the color that we would want for our plot, etc. And by default, we can use just theme minimal, which would work. So if I run this, I should be able to get a bar chart that looks like what you're seeing here. Awesome. So at this particular point, I'm going to ask you to just go through again, run through the examples, run the code, try to understand what is happening. And then once you've understood, then you can work on this challenge that we have here. We've already provided you with just some code for data importation and data preparation. The reason is because we are not focused on those learning objectives or learning outcomes. We're not focused on learning how to prepare data. You can always refer to another workshop or another course for that we've created. Instead, what you would need to do is now write your code for visualization, for creating and customizing a plot. And you can feel free to just copy this code and then modify it accordingly. All right, pause the video and then work on the challenge. Okay, so solution for that would be what we are going to be seeing here. Let me just quickly, I think it's already installed, quickly just share the solution. Solution for that is this. So this is the solution for that step. You can pause the video, verify your solution as well. And in this case, we're not even setting also the fill color, just letting it, but you can also, if you want, set it to whatever color that you want. We'll also learn a few customization concepts as we continue. All right, moving on, line plots. So we can use line plots to display just data over time. So if we want maybe to visualize trends over time or just the relationship between two variables, then one being associated with a period or time, then we can use a line plot. So let's run this cell to import this code chunk to import the data. And you can explore it just to understand how it looks. Okay, then prepare the data set. As you can see here. So what we are doing here, we want to create a line chart that involves having date as well as Also total sales. So total sales as well as date. Date is the first. It's in the first. It's here. So here we are converting this date column into a date format. So the date time format that we can work. It's usually a data type. So this will allow us to be able to work with this type of data and have it in our line plot. Then once we have done that, we just use ggplot again to set the data that we want to work with. We can say data, as you can see here, but in the previous one, you can just write sales data. So that's also another alternative, but sometimes you just having it as the first argument in this ggplot function just works without necessarily defining data. Then we use the s function, and we set on the x-axis we want date values, on the y-axis we want total sales. And we add plus geom line, and this function will create a line. So we would also define the color of the line, but we do not also necessarily. We could always just leave it as just like that, but we want it to be blue. Then we use labs, add this layer to specify how we would want to have the text for the title as well as X and Y. And then here we set a theme. So initially we used a theme minimal, but now here we can use a different theme BW. It's usually black and white. And then we also add another layer. We would want to customize the theme, but more specifically here we would want to change the text for the x-axis to have a style that we would want. So we reference the axis.text, then .x. Then we want to have, we use the element text to specify the angle of our x-axis labels. So we want them tilted as well as justified. And basically, that's it. But you do not even necessarily need the justification one. You could always just leave it like that. And you will still get something of, that works. So yeah, so that's our line chart that you can be able to see. And there are other customizations that you can be able to add, but those you would always just refer to the documentation for that. All right, so yeah, moving on, work on the following challenge. Pause the video and okay, this is oh, I was working on the solution, but it's still okay. So work on the challenge, this challenge over here. Then once you're done, then we can continue. Yeah, so pause the video, work on the challenge, then we can continue. All right, the solution for that is what you're seeing here. This is what you're seeing for that. This is the solution for that. All right, moving on, scatter plots. Scatter plots are those visualizations that we would use to visualize the relationship between two numerical variables. So if we have maybe sales and profit, then we can be able to we can be able to do that. We can be able to visualize those variables and try to understand whether as values of one particular variable increase, whether the others also do increase. So let's load this data set. So we have these columns. So what we want to do is to create a line plot that has sales amount. So sales amount, which is this one, this column. We also want to consider this variable. So sales amount versus profit. That's what we want to create a scatter plot for. So we might decide to select the columns that we want to work with if we want, but here technically you may not necessarily need to even prepare this data set. This is just for just showing what exactly we were working with. And then we decide to create our plot. So we use ggplot to set the data, then the s to set function to set the x and y axis data from the data that we had collected when we set here, which is a data frame. Then we use a geom point function. So previously for the line plot we used a geom line, And for a bar chart, we use the geom bar. So here you're using a geom point for scatter plot. We can set the color of our points as well as the size. We do not necessarily have to. We could always remove them and have them as like that, but we can set them for just learning how to customize them. Then we set the X, Y, as well as the title text, and we specify a different kind of a theme. This is theme light, and we can also customize our title to be centered. So, and also have this particular font size 16 points. So when we say H just 0.5, it means that we want to justify it we want to center it, we want to align it to the center. Yeah, so let's run this and we should be able to do this. So you can see our title here at the very top has been centered, and it's also bigger than the rest of the text. And you can play around also with the text themselves. By the way, for the text that you saw here, so when we customized our x-axis, you can also see, you can also add a size and play around with that. And you can change this from Y to X. So you can change this from X to Y and to be able to modify the Y bit, the Y axis. All right, at this particular point, pause the video, then work on this challenge, and then we'll continue after. Moving on, I won't display the solution notebook. I think that's enough. That should give you a good idea of what getting all the resources would entail. But if you're an Afterwork member, always feel free verifying the challenge, the code that you've done. So yeah, moving on, we can also create a bubble chart. So a bubble chart is more like a scatter plot. The only thing is that it adds, you're able to also have more variables that provide more meaning. Let's say, for example, you can plot also you can include another variable that defines the size of the dots. So a size of the dot might mean maybe, so from this data set, the quantity is bigger. So if you have a bigger dot, it means that the dot itself is associated with large quantity. So yeah, so let's learn how to work with just generally bubble charts. So we will first of all import the data set that we have, which is this one. This is a new data set. Yep. Then once we have done that, we could decide we could decide now we now move on to creating our bubble chart. Bubble chart, it's just similar to a scatter plot. We use a geom point for we use it. Let's even start from ggplot. Then we set the data set that we want to work with. Then we use the s function. Then we set the x-axis, the y-axis. Now we set the size of the dots that we want, or the points that we want. So the size will or the size of the dots will be as a result of the quantity column. So the value that we give to the size parameter will be what would be determining the size of our points. Then we also set another variable called color to also give us more information about the dot itself, which region it belongs to. So this just helps us to just have some more clarity within our plot. So it's almost the same that we did here, but now instead we now have more information about those points. Then we apply the geom point function to specify that we want to create in our case, because of the number of variables that we've involved, we want to create a bubble plot, bubble chart. Then we specify our title, x and y axis. We also specify the color of our chart, and which will be specified by region, and we set the theme to be minimal. Then we modify or customize our title, then x and y, and we run that, and we can be able to see. Yeah, so that's what you can see. You can see the points themselves, but at the same time, we are able to distinguish those points across the different regions. And we can see the regions at the far top are from the south. And in terms of quantity, the quantity that were sold more actually are from south, as you can see. And because how we know more, it's because of the size of the dots. The least or from north, relatively from north, but there are a few still here. All right, so this particular point, work on the challenge that we've given here. You can pause the video and then we can continue afterwards. All right, moving on, histograms. Sometimes we might want to determine the distribution of a variable. So we might want to determine how spread the variables within how spread the points within a variable are, and we can we can use something like a histogram to determine how those points are spread. Are they spread towards one side? Are they distributed towards another side, or are they distributed towards the center? That's what we can be able to do. So we can use a histogram for that. So let's import this data, and then we can now again specify the data that we would want to work with. So in this case, as you can see, this is another approach we haven't really touched on. So here we just use ggplot initially and specify the sales data inside, but we can also decide to specify sales data, the data sets that we want to work with, and then use a pipe operator to now specify. Once we've specified the data, we use now the ggplot function. Then we just go directly and set now the est function and its parameters. So you can see here we do not specify the data inside. You can use either of the approaches. And once we have done that, we can now use, we can add now a layer for now the type of chart. That's geom histogram. Use the function geom histogram for that. We said we want to have the color of the histograms to be sky blue. And the edges of those bars in a histogram to have black. That's the color black. The bins in histogram are usually how many of those bars do we want? 10, which of course will define the different ranges in terms of in terms of the points at which will be or the points at which we will have within that histogram for each and every interval. So then we specify the title X and Y, and then we those are just the text, and then we just set a different theme. Here we're going to use a theme dark, so a dark theme generally. So let's run this. You should be able to get this plot. This is a dark theme, but you can play around again with the theme that works best for you. All right, at this particular point, if you're an Afterwork member, pause the video, work on the challenge, and then we can continue. Moving on, box plot, which is the last visualization that we'll get to learn how to create using R. We can use a box plot to visualize, again, also the distribution of the variable or even just variables. You have multiple box plots, and we can also be able to get more information from a box plot, such as minimum point within a variable, maximum point, median, etc. And it also helps us to just understand, again, distribution or skewness of that data, or how well distributed our data is, and also identify outliers. So let's load this data set. And then prepare the data itself. We want to select the region and sales column. So we want to work with these two columns. But for box plot, you can just work with one. But here we would want to have region values on so we want to have box plots for each region. So we would specify the X axis to have region, and the Y values, the ones that we are going to use for the box plot, to be sales. But again, you can still specify just to have just one column and use just sales instead of just region. You can always just use sales. You can just put it like this, but that's if you don't want to consider any region. So once we've specified that, we use the geom-box-plot function. We specify the color of our box plots, the boxes themselves to be light blue, and the outer color of, or the edges of the box to be blue. And then we set the labels to have title as well as Y and X and Y text, to have the mentioned text, and also we set the minimum. Something you might notice that we are going to be saving this ggplot object, which has also these are the layers inside the sales plot variable. So we'll save it here, and then later, once we have created it, we are going to save this. We can now export this plot using this approach, and you can also apply it to other different charts, types of charts that we've learned, or even other types of charts that we have not yet covered. So we use the gg save function, and we specify the name of the visualization that we would want to have, and then we set plot to equal to sales plot, which is what we have here. So we are going to export this visualization, and it will be exported on the files directory on the right hand side. So let me see if I can expand this so that you're able to see it. Let me take it to the very top, so you should be able to see it on the right. So if I run this cell, you can observe what happens here, and also at the bottom. So you can see it here. You can see our visualization that we have here. So this is the visualization itself. If you click on it, it should pop up the visualization itself, which is what we have here. You can always right click to save it, or alternatively, you could always just click on where you can see, click on this checkbox, and then go to the gear icon, then export, and you should be able to export it locally. So there are various ways that you can go about that, and basically that would be it in terms of just getting you started to create visualizations with R. If you're an Afterwork member, again, you can always pause and work on the challenge that we have given you, and then verify your solution using the solution notebook that's also provided. Then once you're done with all the concepts, you can look to also to do a project. On our Afterwork platform, we also have another course on data visualization with R that we have provided. It's part of the data analytics track and or program, and you can also find a project there that you can do. And we also provided a sample solution project that will just ensure that you're in good shape when it comes to learning about R. So in terms of the next steps, once you've learned how to create static visualizations, we would recommend you learn how to work with how to create interactive visualizations. So learning how to work with Shiny, which is another package that we can work with as expert in R, and we can create visualizations that allow users to interact more with your visualization. So once you've gone through that, another recommendation is usually now to go into statistical data analysis work, or even now just being able to work on just machine learning tasks or machine learning projects. That's usually our recommendation. So our next recommendation would be interactive visualizations with R. So that's basically it for this particular course or workshop. We hope you're able to learn a lot. We hope you are able to take the most, and you can be able to now transfer the skills that you've learned into those particular areas of learning that you might, or into projects that you might have locally. So just to quickly recap, so at the very beginning, what we were working towards was just being able to understand the importance of data visualization in analysis, which we were able to, being able to also use R to create various types of plots, be able to customize plots for effective data communication, as well as being able to evaluate the effectiveness of different visualizations for specific scenarios. Yes, if you did love this experience, if you did like the way we taught, and you got some value from this course, be sure to give this course a thumbs up. It just tells us that we are doing something and we should keep on continuing our journey. If you have questions or comments, or you have suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And if you would want to be informed of when we post such kinds of videos on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, just so that you're able to be aware of when we post such videos, as well as videos on newer technologies in relation to data. All the best in your learning journey, and see you in the next learning experience.